This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com with a daily combat sports news update for you. WWE Hall of Famer Sunny, aka Tammy Sytch, is probably the biggest news of the day. Just controversy she's stirred up on Twitter. And coincidentally, a lot of you people asked me to do a follow, or I have never done a shoot interview with her. And a bunch of you asked me to ask her for an interview. She coincidentally got back to me today and turned me down. If she ever changes her mind, I'd still be up for it. But I'll get into some of these controversial tweets. This one's a funny one. This is one of her latest ones. She's talking about Jordynne Grace, who in my dealings with her, I can't say anything positive about her from my dealings with her, but Sunny tweeted this in regards to Jordynne Grace. Since when does Impact, or whatever you want to call that shit, have a division for short, fat, ugly, non-knockouts? I'm so happy they are an equal opportunity employer, even though they pay shit. Then on some more controversial ones, she stated her opinion on all the rioting going on in the U.S. right now. Unfortunately, a lot of innocent people have been killed. She says, so for all of you haters that are in support of this violence, looting, and killing of innocent people, so it's okay if innocent people get harmed and killed by these animals, but not okay for these animals to be taken down for their actions. Hypocrites. Oh no, people on Twitter are unfollowing me because I like President Trump and I'm against these animals looting and harming innocent people, their homes and their businesses. Fuck, how will I ever go on living without you? You know what's funny? I said animals, not black animals. And all these black people are getting their panties in a bunch. Guilty conscience, huh? Right there. You are naming yourselves animals, not me. So she's getting into some controversial stuff. She even did a pound white power. And a lot of people are mad that she did the pound white power, but I have seen all over social media pound black power. In other wrestling news, some of the released WWE wrestlers, according to the Wrestling Observer, have been made offers to come back for lower dollar amounts. It's unlikely all of these wrestlers will go back to the WWE. But there is rumors that some, like this Drake Maverick guy, might go back for lesser money. Same with Kurt Angle. But they could also just be making appearances before their 90-day clause expires. The Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, announced today that the state is going to be opening up on June 5th. So basically in a couple of days, for movie theaters, concert houses, auditoriums, playhouses, bowling alleys, and arcades to open with 50% capacity. So that means that events in front of fans could start happening in Florida. So obviously, as soon as next week, that means WWE could have fans in the Performance Center or an arena in Florida at 50% capacity. And let's face the facts here. Very rarely does WWE actually sell arenas out these days past 50% of capacity. Usually at least half to more than half of their arenas are curtained off for TV tapings. So basically back to normal operations for WWE in Florida anyways. So that would mean to me that in all likelihood, WWE would probably do their SummerSlam taping in Florida, depending on what other states open up by the time August rolls around for events like this. I know in Canada, they're taking it a lot more seriously. I can't see events happening with crowds this summer at all. Bushiroad, which I guess owns New Japan and Stardom, says they're going to start running live events soon now that the state of emergency in Japan has gone away. A bunch of people commented yesterday. Tony Khan made this unusual statement basically out of nowhere that Linda Balea, who's been divorced from Hulk Hogan pretty much 11 years now, is banned from AEW, like she's going to like show up at AEW randomly. But it's funny. He said that related to a comment Balea said on Twitter related to the riots that are happening right now. But Mike Tyson, who went to prison for rape, he's okay to appear in AEW, even though he's a convicted rapist. But others that make comments on social media, they're banned. So I'm not saying either one is right, but it is unusual that he has no problem using a convicted rapist in a prominent position, but he'll go out of his way to say Linda Balea is banned. What the hell was Linda Balea ever going to do in AEW? Like, honestly, when was she ever used in wrestling in like in a manager role or a wrestling role? And I believe she's in her 50s now. I thought it was pretty immature for him to just like go out and say publicly, Linda Balea, you're banned. And he also said Terry Bollea is banned. Not that Terry Bollea cares. He just received a big settlement. He was used by WWE in Saudi Arabia last year, reportedly for millions. So I don't think Terry Bollea is crying over that either. Also, Dave Meltzer stated on the Wrestling Observer Radio, this is a little bit old news, but apparently around 82, there was some consideration of putting the WWE World title on Jimmy Snuka, since Bob Backlund, by that time, like they never should have taken the title off of Billy Graham, in my opinion. He was becoming massive, but McMahon Jr. made the switch to Backlund. It was stale by 82. There was consideration on switching the title to Snuka, who was really hot at that time, but apparently he was too unreliable and had too many personal issues to put the title on him. I did actually watch an interview with The Undertaker online the other day, an out-of-character interview, and the host, and I'm so sorry, I forget the name, but I think it's the only interview he's done if you search it up online. But the host made a comment that the crowds started to get really crazy in Madison Square Garden around the Bob Backlund era. It's like, did you see the Billy Graham era, the pandemonium that ensued when Billy Graham was champion? I thought it was crazy to say that the crowds were at their hottest during the Backlund era. I've never heard that before in my life. And finally, I did do a video about this Nia Jax angle. I would call it an angle because she is the female in the WWE right now with the most heat. There's a lot of fans that are like, that absolutely hate her, and WWE's having some fun with this. I do believe they're working an angle right now with Nia Jax, who has apparently injured some opponents for real, but they're trying to make this step thing into an angle. It appears like the other girl, who I don't even remember her name, very likely did a blade job, and some people were commenting, well, WWE can't do blade jobs anymore because they got the no blood policy and they can't show blood on TV. Well, this is actually a clever way of WWE getting around that they're not doing blade jobs anymore. They're not showing the blade job. They're just showing the aftermath of this girl's head that has a line in her hairline, just like where everyone would do a blade job, about an inch long. And they showed a picture of that, and then they cut out the actual cut from the video. So you can't even tell if it was a blade job or not. So I think it's very interesting, and there's actually marks on here trying to defend that wrestling is real. No, this really happened. Nia Jax really hurt this girl, and this is real. Wrestling's real. So they've done a good job here of getting around the unkayfabe world of today by doing a kayfabe angle like this and turning this Nia Jax into the biggest heel in WWE right now. So good job, Paul Heyman, the head writer of Raw. Debo says Twitter should go away. The Hannibal TV is on Twitter, by the way, at the Hannibal TV, and I have a personal account at Devon, Devon, Hannibal, Hannibal. Kem Kerpal 321 says Sunny was so hot in 1995. Oh my God. I agree. She was my favorite back then. Dave McMichael says Sunny likes to straddle the line. She enjoys controversy. Someone says she was as hot as Pam Anderson at that time, back in the 90s. Neo GX01 says the whole Sunny thing is a funny sideshow. I agree. She's just stirring the pot there. I don't believe. Actually, I don't know her, so I don't know what her views are on anything. Matt R says WWE needs only 10% of the arenas. They only need to open 10% of the arenas for WWE because they're only filling 10% of the arenas. You have a good point there, Matt R. Malafe says, are there any riots in Canada? Not to my knowledge. The only thing that happened over the weekend is some people looted a music store in Montreal. So across Canada, that is the only thing that's happened. A music store in Montreal was looted. Other than that, I haven't heard of anything. Mark Crowley says Sunny was available for $2,000 a night at one point. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I haven't really been following her, but this was the main news today, Sunny's tweets, because there's nothing interesting going on in the wrestling world. By the way, check out our second YouTube channel, Devon Nicholson. I am putting some custom content on there if you want to search it up here. Rolo555, WWE is going to be a regional promotion during the summer if it can only have fans in Florida. Very likely, yes. And in the future, they already cut way back on house shows last year and canceled more house shows than they ever did in the history of the company due to low attendance. They actually lost money on house shows at various points last year. So I think in the future they are going to be running less house shows, which could be good for independent companies. Fart Doctor says, is Sunny still overweight? I don't know. I have no idea. Haven't seen like a full body photo of her recently. Neo GX says Tony Khan comes across as a nerdy geek giving out his wet dream. He does come across as a huge geek. I fully agree with that. Fully agree with that. At one point, when they first announced AEW was coming back and they said they were going to be back to old school wrestling, which they have not been back to old school wrestling at all. I had faith in them, but I have the only company I really have faith in now, even though they're not running, I don't even know if they're going to run again in 2020, is MLW. They did grow between 2018 to 2019, but it seems like the lockdown has kind of put a stop to their growth, but they do have some good wrestlers under contract, and I hope that MLW can get back to normal. I did post on my YouTube story yesterday that once again this last month, the Hannibal TV, not only did we beat Ring of Honor, MLW, NWA, and New Japan Pro Wrestling in YouTube viewers, if you combine the total YouTube viewers of Ring of Honor, NWA, New Japan English, and MLW, their combined viewership did not equal the Hannibal TV's viewership for the past 30 days. And somebody said, oh, well, they're not running events, so you have an advantage. They have tons of wrestlers under contract they can do interviews with. Great North Wrestling is not running events either. And if you look at some of the most popular videos on this channel, the Hannibal TV, some of our most popular videos are wrestling videos. So they have the same ability as me to post and not. So yes, I am going to point it out when me as an individual am doing better than companies that are owned by multi-million-dollar corporations as well as multimillionaires like Billy Corgan. I am proud of that, and I thank you guys for your viewership, and I thank everyone that goes to patreon.com/the Hannibal TV and helps me. I thank everyone that gives me tips during these live streams. Every little bit helps, and one day I hope to grow and be able to produce bigger events and get better and better interviews. Someone said they'd love to see me interview more celebrities outside of wrestling. I would love that too. And hopefully one day I can do that. Nix 1904 says Tony Khan is trying to be with the cool kids, loser. And someone did point out how many of these wrestlers would like hanging out with this guy if he didn't have the private jets and was a multimillionaire. Very good point. But actually, he's a billionaire, or his dad's a billionaire anyways. But wrestlers like paydays, so of course they're going to suck up to people that are paying them huge amounts of money. I know Jim Ross, it was stated publicly, the contract he signed with AEW is the largest contract that any sports announcer in the history of not just wrestling but sports ever signed in history. Jim Ross admitted that to me in an interview I did with Jim Ross last year. So, of course, he's going to continuously put it over. He's making massive money, and good for him. I'm glad a lot of guys are making money with him. No, I have no issues with that. I'm not a fan of the direction of that company and a lot of the goofy stuff that happens, but that's wrestling today. Mark Crowley says, what would the booking fees for the arenas be since they could only be filled? I would only imagine that arenas would rent themselves out for cheaper since you can't sell as many tickets. But WWE does very good deals with arenas for the most part. Sometimes they even do like percentage splits from what I understand. I don't know if they still do this in 2020, but in recent years, I know they've done deals where like they don't even have to pay a guaranteed amount to an arena. The arena gets like a percentage of overall ticket sales. Harlan Lovestone says there's something called forgiveness that too many people have forgotten today. And I'm guessing that's in relation to the Mike Tyson comment. And the reason why I said it's hypocritical that he's forgiven Mike Tyson for the rape is that he's not forgiven Hulk Hogan for saying the N-word years ago now. He was kicked out of the Hall of Fame for a few years. He's apologized for it, but you're not going to forgive Hulk Hogan. But someone that actually would rape a woman, which in my opinion, raping somebody is worse than saying a racial slur, because to rape someone, you're invading their body, and that's a horribly traumatic experience. It's not just saying a racial comment, which is terrible, but rape is pretty bad. So to forgive someone for rape, but not for a racial slur, I don't know. Patriot 88, can we get a Bob Holly shoot interview? He's a very hard guy to connect with. I've tried, haven't heard anything back. And guys like Bob Holly, I'm not going to I'm not going to keep banging on their doors, because really, how much are they worth for a shoot interview? He's not someone that was a major star or is known for giving great shoot interviews. Jay Smith says AEW is for phonies. Harlan Stone says yes. How can Khan ban someone for life? It's so stupid. And in wrestling, I do like Vince McMahon's perspective on one thing. It's never say never in the WWE. He's let a lot of people back. For instance, Brock Lesnar sued WWE at one point and actually breached his contract. They let him back. Apparently, WWE gave their blessing to Fox to hire CM Punk for their backstage show. They were involved in a battle with them. I mean, they've never given me a second chance, but they've given a lot of people a second chance. They don't make statements like you're banned for life. They said that about Val Venus too, because Val Venus had a problem with Nyla Rose being the women's champion in AEW, and they said, "Oh, Val Venus, you're banned. You were the Disco Inferno of the WWE." So yeah, they're a little bit like high school kids in that way. Hulk Hogan is detrimental to wrestling. Egomaniac UTB LLC says, I don't know how much you get. I hope he never wrestles again, to be honest. I don't want to see Hulk Hogan in the ring again. But as far as working for WWE, if he comes to your town, like if he came to Ottawa, for instance, where I live, they would get a slightly bigger crowd if Hulk Hogan was on the card, because he's still a bigger name than any of their current stars. So to have him on a card, you're going to get some extra fans, particularly in towns like Ottawa, where he hasn't been for nearly 20 years. So he does have some value. Obviously, Saudi Arabia wanted him enough for him to get paid millions to appear in Saudi Arabia last year. UTB LLC says Hulk Hogan is a racist. A lot of people believe that. He has used some racial terms. A lot of wrestlers have. Many people say Ric Flair has used racial terms. Tony Atlas has gone on record saying he's heard Ric Flair say the N-word. But Tony Khan has openly praised Flair. But then again, Flair wasn't on tape saying it. Hicks Z34 says WWE is $1 billion company because they're publicly traded. Because of that, they can also go broke overnight. Pro Themis 2019 says protest ? You mean insurgency actions benefiting Democrats, imperial socialist scumbags who will be going to jail soon. I'm not that familiar with American politics. I live in Canada. We don't have Democrats and Republicans here. We have liberals and conservatives and the Green Party and the Progressive Conservative Party and the New Democratic Party, and I don't follow any of it. Some people have accused me of being political. I'm not political at all. When I voted for Justin Trudeau a few years ago, it's because he wanted to legalize weed. When I voted for him again, it was to thank him for legalizing weed. Would I vote for him again? I don't know. I don't like how he's dealt with the lockdown situation. I don't like that I'm still not able to work out. I think that's a load of bullshit. The gyms are still closed here. City of Roses 79 says AEW is going to offer Linda Hogan a contract as talent. Wow. Exactly. Like what honestly would they have used Linda Hogan for? Like, let's be honest here. She's beyond her days of looking good. She's not a trained wrestler. She has zero experience managing. I don't think anyone's going to tune in to watch Linda Hogan. So I think the only reason Tony Khan made that statement was to make himself look cool. So I don't know. That statement made him look like a geek to me, because it's not like you were in negotiations to bring Linda Hogan in. It makes no sense at all. Wolfpack for Life 3. Do I know Adam Pearce? I've met him once at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Iowa. He said he would not do any interview with me because he worked for the WWE. And now that I think of it, I actually met him twice, because in the 2014 Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Iowa, I was also there. I had a match in front of Jim Ross and Gerald Briscoe that actually got me an NXT tryout that they later canceled for no reason. But Adam Pearce also had a match in front of Jim Ross and Briscoe, and he ended up getting a deal to be a development trainer out of that whole thing. And I think now he's actually on TV. I've seen a skit with Adam Pearce. So I do remember there was a cooler of alcohol in the back for the show that night. And I think Adam Pearce and Colt Cabana were drinking out of it. And I don't think anyone was getting paid for that show. And I remember saying, "Is this beer for us?" And they said yes. And I think I took one of the beers. So that was the extent of my communication with Adam Pearce that day. And then a few years later, when he was working for WWE, he said he didn't want to do an interview with me because he didn't want any heat with WWE. And I don't hold that against him. I don't hold that against him at all. If he's making money and I have heat with him, I would understand someone for not wanting to get any heat with the company for doing an interview with me. Permethus 2019, Hogan ripped off Billy Graham, and so did Jesse the Body Ventura, whose son is a communist scumbag. I know nothing about Jesse Ventura's son other than Jesse Ventura was a filmmaker, or his son was a filmmaker at some point. I think Billy Graham should have had a lawsuit against Hulk Hogan for ripping him off so bad, stealing his catchphrases. Billy Graham should have got those catchphrases trademarked. He would have had a very good lawsuit against Hulk Hogan at one point, but he didn't fight for it. I think that was a mistake on Billy Graham's part. But Billy Graham's a really nice guy. He's misunderstood. He's actually a really nice guy. And by the way, he doesn't agree. I talked to him recently. The riots in Phoenix haven't affected him yet, even though it's happening around where he's living now, like just outside of his neighborhood. He doesn't agree with them, but he's safe so far. WWE Jobber says Pittsburgh has the shittiest beer on the planet. I've only been to Pittsburgh once when I had my WWE medical that I failed because we found out I had hepatitis C at that medical at that time. I've since been cured, but I literally they flew me in and out the same day. Someone says Bruce Lee is a fraud. Don't know any. I've watched some documentaries on Bruce Lee. He's inspired a lot of people. OG 406 running 10 says I only looked at the thumbnail thinking I was going to get some pussy. Ha ha ha. We'll leave it at that. Tomorrow I'm interviewing Ricky Morton from the Rock and Roll Express. I put it in my YouTube stories. If you guys have any questions, suggestions for Ricky Morton, reply to that YouTube story, because I am going to be looking at the comments of that later tonight when I'm putting together my questions for tomorrow. My full shoot interview with Al Snow is posted now. Patreon.com/The Hannibal TV, along with my Road Warrior Animal shoot interview. My shoot interview with Dan Severin is now posted free on this channel. And you could also listen to the audio version of it on our GNW podcast iTunes page. The link is in the description. So thanks a lot for all your questions. Tons of them today.